Good day, everybody. Thank you, as always, for choosing to spend your time with us. My name is Clarice Kovacs, Director of Product Marketing at Motoinsight. If we haven't had the opportunity to meet or you haven't joined one of our sessions in the past, and I'm joined by Ivan.
Hey, how's it going, Clarice? Kicking the tunes.
Cool tunes. I thought I heard Todd singing away in the background there.
Yeah, Todd liked it for sure.
Awesome. So we were here at the beginning of February with Matthew Groudon from Google Canada and some of our friends also from ActiveX and T-Advantage. Quite a bit has happened since as well. Obviously, we were at NADA last week. So some exciting stuff happening there also.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, was there a lot of insights, like anything that you got out of NEDA that was maybe different, Clarice?
Yeah, well, I think number one, it was absolutely great to see people in person. So our dealer partners, even our vendor and OEM clients as well, and potential prospects, just to really just interact in person. I was very appreciative of that. But when it comes to takeaways, I think there's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of evolution in our industry, and some very impressive technologies out there. And I think they all have that goal in mind. And I feel like that we all have the opportunity there as well to bring efficiency into the dealership workflows. And I know there is also some uncertainty around like the retail model and how that will evolve. And I think you and I, that's why we started these conversations, to ensure that we bring those relevant conversations to the table and invite our partners, our dear partners here to participate in those conversations. So yeah, although there was
Yeah, no, exactly. I totally know. I was just going to say we had a pre-order webinar in December where we talked about getting the sort of pre-order strategies. Obviously, you don't have the inventory in stock. And of course, a few months have passed now, and allocations now, talking to dealers, they're being taken away. I've heard, like, for example, Honda's canceling some CRV and Civic orders. Ford recently announced that they would ship vehicles without parts and let them sit there in the dealership until parts come in. So, exactly what the webinar says is the only thing that matters is inventory. So that's why we decided to do this webinar. And of course, we wanted to invite Viato, who knows better about inventory acquisition than Viato, to have this for everybody. So I think we have some stats first to go over, though, Clarice, just to set the pace.
Yeah, exactly. And as we go through these, we talk about some of the tools and features that can be utilized within your current toolkit, but then also more about the strategy and actually following through with that process to bring the results. So yeah, I thought we can retouch on these. I know we mentioned them in our December webinar. I don't think we actually shared it on the screen like that, but our friends at Trader, they actually did a study with consumers to understand how the inventory shortage and actually having to wait for those vehicles are impacting, if at all, the way their behavior. And there's some interesting numbers I thought I'll bring in, because we can keep these in mind as we go through the session today. So 42% of shoppers are actually willing to wait for the preferred vehicle model. And 60% of them even for 6 months. So I think consumers are aware there is a quite long wait time for the inventory. With the next stat, therefore, we can take this two ways, right? So 52% are open to switch to another brand and model while waiting. So what does that mean for us? That means that we should be capturing those prospects to ensure that they don't switch to one of our competitors and they actually stay with us. But when we do engage with them and we have the opportunity to start that conversation with them, we talked about the virtual inventory build and price that we have enabled in our tools. So you have the opportunity to engage with those prospects and then move them into something different. If we can't get their hands on that inventory, there is an opportunity to move the customer into a different model.
Yeah, and I also mentioned back in December custom segment audience marketing. So 52% are open to switch to another brand model while waiting. Hey, you got to proactively reach out to these clients. And are you going to email them all the time? No, you don't want to do that. So what do? I mean, it's sort of cloak and dagger, but not really. But it's advertising to your own customer base, and that's fine because first party data you're allowed to use. It's not third party. So yeah, we talked about making sure and being proactive and reaching out to these customers to advertise to them by uploading custom segment audiences into Google, Facebook, and your various platforms.
Yeah, and we're talking about the phone calls as well, right? Like what was the key question that consumers asking when they call in the dealerships, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so with 50% of consumers willing to spend an additional 2 to 4 hours a week comparison shopping, we heard from Matthew Groudon at our last session with Google that there was an 11% increase in dealership sales phone calls. And interestingly, what they're asking, Clarice, I'm sure you can imagine.
You have it in stock.
Do you have it in stock? Exactly. Is it in stock? And actually, I was talking to a dealer 2 days ago, and you know what else is the big question that they're hearing as well?
No, what is it?
Are you selling for MSRP?
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you are, you're in an advantage because there's other dealers selling well above it. So definitely, the market is completely changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I think it's time to get into our conversation. So unfortunately, Gary Thien, who's the senior performance manager, was supposed to join us today. He is a little bit under the weather, so we're wishing him the best and a speedy recovery. But luckily, we have Mazen, who is able to fill in. So Mazen, thank you and welcome to the conversation.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, if you
Thanks,
can.
Claire.
Yeah, sorry, maybe Mazen put your video on as well, if you don't mind, so we can see it. Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Clarice and Ivan, first of all, for inviting us from the vAuto channel to participate in this webinar. It's our absolute pleasure to be able to speak with some of our existing customers and maybe future potential customers at the same time. Mazen, thanks for jumping in last minute. That's also really appreciated. For those of you on the call that have never met Mazen has been in the vAuto channel for more than 6 years now. He's working with some of our biggest dealer partners across the country. And Mazen's going to add some content as we move through some of the slides regarding process and execution. Myself, my name's Todd Temple, and I am the sales director for vAuto here in Canada. I've been working with vAuto here in Canada since 2011, which was the formation of the partnership between vAuto USA and Trader Canada. And that partnership continues to evolve and be strong at this time.
Awesome, Todd. Yeah, let's see what you got then.
I think before we jump into the insights, we actually Todd and myself were chatting on our red eye flight back from Vegas, everything to do with inventory, and we thought we'll start with the basic, with the foundation, the 4 fundamentals, as you call it, Todd, to ensure that dealerships are profitable. So we'll just do a quick run through, maybe a refresher for current clients, but also maybe potentially something new who doesn't currently use the software.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Clarice. Yeah, exactly. We just kind of wanted to set the foundation. So some of the content that we're going to talk about as we move through some of the slides will relate to some of these metrics. These are really the core foundational metrics that underpin our vAuto strategy and software solution. So I just wanted everybody to have some level of familiarity. What those metrics are is market day supply, price to market, cost to market, and age management. Just going to get into a little bit more detail to explain what those metrics mean. Market day supply, in the words of our founder, Mr. Dale Pollack, this is really the single most important metric that resides inside vAuto. This is the most important metric, whether you're acquiring a piece of inventory or whether you're putting a price on a piece of inventory. And to just oversimplify the metric, it's really a supply versus demand metric. Our software is watching the rate of each and every vehicle that's being sold in Canada. And it's looking at that over a rolling 45-day trend. So just added a little bit of math in the bottom there just to make sense of it. If we've got 10 vehicles in our own unique market that are all comparably equipped and for sale. And we can see that the current rate that that vehicle is selling at in our market is 1 over the last 45 days. We know that we have a 10-day supply of that particular vehicle. Price to market is exactly as it sounds. Where is our price relative to the market's average price? And the market average price is calculated in the simplest form, right? We take, if there's 10 cars for sale in the market, we take all 10 prices, add them up, divide by 10. That gives us the market average. Anywhere you go inside our software, we always use 100% to demonstrate that market average. So a vehicle that we had that would be priced at 104% in the example we have here is just simply a vehicle that's priced 4% above the market's average price. Vice versa, if we were at 96%, we're 4% below that market average price. Cost to market. So this is the relationship between what we have as a total investment in the car and that market average retail price, right? It's really how right we are in the car. Again, the math below just demonstrates exactly how that cost to market metric works. If our total investment in a car, including our reconditioning costs, is $8,500, and the market's average retail asking price is currently at $10,000, it means we have an 85% cost to market, right? And then finally, age management. Now, some of the stuff that Ivan and Claire has covered right up front, it is related to the fact that we are in a severe supply shortage. Mm-hmm. We have pent up demand. So while age management has become less relevant, it is still a component that we want to watch and we want to be aware of. The market will eventually move into an increased supply scenario. So we do still want to keep an eye on that. As a general rule of thumb, in a normalized inventory scenario, we're looking to see our dealers keep 55% or more of their total inventory in that sort of 30-day and fresher bucket. And this is what's really going to help them optimize profitability.
Freedom 55 still at play, eh?
Freedom 55, yeah.
That's the number.
That's right.
So ultimately, when I look at this, I think it's obvious that the trends have changed a lot over the past couple of years. So I thought it would be great to look at some of these and maybe give us some insight to what these numbers look like in a normalized market. And I know eventually it will return, but ultimately what the trend is right now is impacting the operations of every single dealership across North America.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm going to go through and just kind of give you a little bit of a view. What I wanted to do is just include some detail from an aggregate level, right? So this is a view of our approximate 2,000 customer base, coast to coast, and what to start with. Sold inventory has looked like on a year-over-year, week-on-week basis, right? So we're not going to talk about that spike because I don't think I really have to identify what that spike was all about. I think we can all just think back to it and hopefully have to never revisit that scenario again. Outside of that, we can see that from a sold perspective or a sales perspective, it's remained fairly static, fairly stable, right around 100%, with it just dropping off as of recent, and then kind of flattening back out and climbing back up. So we'll start to see a little bit of seasonality as we move into our spring market in this sold graph. Then active inventory. Right. So that's been a long ride down. You can see how long that slope kind of carried on, and it kind of bottomed out just late December. It was kind of the bottom of our inventory level. And we started to see that climb. Again, seasonality is coming into play somewhat there. We get some reduction in demand. So we saw that climb, and now we can see it really flattening out and maybe even probably going to start to trend downwards again with the increase in demand as we move into that spring market. Days supply. So days supply, Clarice, you mentioned kind of how things have changed. This is one of the things that, has changed significantly since, we've entered into this tight supply state. So across Canada, market day supply would typically sit, again, just looking at it on aggregate, somewhere between 90 and 95 days. And you can see right now that that's closer to maybe about 42, 43 days. And it's been under 40 days, kind of got to mid 30s at one point in time. So these are unprecedented low day supply numbers, right? And it's just really a clear demonstration or a clear view of the compression that's happening in the market, right? The push and the pull on both sides, like the tight supply and that combination of that pent up demand.
Yeah, I would like to bring you back later on in the year. Just keep monitoring these trends as well, and hopefully we'll see it around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there may be we may have some US guests on our call today. So some of those numbers, of course, they look different in the US market. When a Canadian market day supply might sit in a normalized market, somewhere between 90 and 95 days, that number might look closer to 60 days in a US market. Right. So their market is typically a bit more compressed, maybe 1/3 more compressed than our market in general.
So obviously, with those stats, number one priority is vehicle acquisition. Todd, what do you want to run us through some challenges when it comes to that? I was going to say new car inventory obviously is the challenge. Those are most used stats, I believe. So yeah, run us through these, I guess. There it is. Yeah, Luke, new inventory, right? Of course.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's obviously clear connectivity, and with a lot of our franchise dealers, the single biggest source for their used car operation is new cars. So when we just simply don't have the new car inventory available, it's really a restrictive factor in terms of relying on that alone to generate enough use to feed the used car operation. High cost to market. So anybody that's on the call that's had any look at wholesale valuations over the last year know that wholesale valuations have gone absolutely berserk. It's just a battle for cars, and what this has done is it's driven the need to pay higher than we would have in the past felt comfortable in terms of that cost to market metric that I mentioned earlier. Right, we do have to step up and pay some higher cost to markets. Now, the good news with having to pay a higher cost to market is the market's also bearing above market average prices on some of the different product lines, right? And then kind of the final thing is, we look at that spread between new cars and used cars, and as far back as data existed, that spread has always been very consistent in terms of what that difference is in price. And as we've been watching and analyzing that, and we believe that metric might help us get line of sight on when the tide will change and when we'll start to see depreciation occurring on used cars again. And we're starting to see that get more and more compressed, more so in the last few months, maybe the last 3 months. And then the final factor, of course, that really only applies to us here in Canada is exportation into the US market. And that exportation ties back to a number of these other challenges that we talked about. It ties back to, the trade opportunities, and it ties back to driving that cost to market up, and that higher cost to market's driving some of that compression between new and used.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of dealers just boom, it's too easy. Export it out, Canada to US, they have 30% on us. So Yeah,
And
that's
where you see
Yeah.
sometimes that the wholesale, US wholesale value is actually higher than the retail value. So it's, yeah, understandable.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And I mean, I think I would want to add something here, and Mazen may want to add further to that. But I think one of the important things for dealers to be doing right now is to really understand what is the total, net value of a retail transaction before we take that quick, easy path to export that vehicle or send it into the wholesale channel, right? What are all those different pieces? And we should be measuring those, right? What is the contribution that the fixed ops, the reconditioning portion is contributing to our business? What is the contributing factor from F&I, right? And what does it mean to our people and retention of people, front end, back end, if we're forfeiting too many of those retail opportunities and taking that wholesale avenue.
Makes sense. Yeah, for sure. So as we look at these challenges, and we know that we're not out of the woods yet, and it's going to continue, but we talked about some process change that's required in not just in the dealerships, but even the vendors and the partners that dealerships interact with, and that goes the same for VO2 as well. So based on our conversation, I know that the performance managers have introduced new topics and new focuses into their monthly performance reviews around supporting dealerships on getting more inventory. So that's what we're going to jump into our next section. And I'm hoping that both you, Todd, and Mazen, we can just provide our listeners here with some key items and takeaways that they can take back to their dealership. And in the end, I know that there's ongoing support that's going to be available from your team as well. But yeah, maybe just we'll go through these in a bit more detail.
For sure. So I'll just cover some of these, and then I'll let Mazen chime in because he's on the front lines and he's working with supporting these stores in a lot of these areas. So some of the things that we want to do, and we want to be doing all of these things, right? In this particular market environment, it's crucial to understand that in order to win, in order to optimize success and profitability, we need to action every opportunity that's available to us to acquire inventory. And there are some very simple things. There are also some really great solutions out there. One of the simple things is noted on this slide, right? You can simply go into any one of the marketplaces, whether it's Auto Trader, Kijiji, or some other marketplace, and you can build a notification for yourself. You can set up filters. So if you're looking for specific year, make, model vehicles, you can set those up. The way those notifications work on all those different marketplaces is real simple. As soon as a piece of private content is listed, the moment that private content is listed and it matches the parameters that you built into that filter, it's going to send you an instant notification. It's going to send you an email, right? So you can go after that piece of inventory right away. The other opportunity to kind of get your business connected with private sellers is to utilize some of the solutions that exist out in the marketplace. ICO is one of the solutions. We're going to hear a little bit more about that after. That's a great solution. We've seen lots of growth in that one. There's a new player out there called AutoZen. Again, their business model is designed specifically to connect buyers with private sellers. And then there's Van, which some of you on the call may be familiar with. It's been around for a number of years, and that's the vehicle acquisition network. Again, a tool designed specifically to pair up private sellers with dealers that are looking for cars. Mazen, is there anything that you wanted to add in addition to those things that I mentioned that you've seen dealers that you're working with doing, or you've helped dealers implement in their business?
Absolutely, actually. But I want to take a step back, if that's okay with everyone. The biggest challenge, and obviously it's no secret to anybody, is getting inventory to your front lot today. So you need to ask yourself two questions. What kind of inventory do I need that's going to rotate, that's going to sell quickly, that's going to turn? And what kind of inventory can I bring in that's going to supplement that high turning inventory and basically sell at a slower pace and make me a little bit more money. You got to have two different strategies. Now, the dealers that are having success, and obviously Todd is going to share some of those dealers with you in a bit. Those dealers have made the conscious decision that it's time for us to basically go outside of our comfort zone. It's easy to go to the auction. I'm sure all of you guys have done that. And I'm sure you guys all have overpaid for cars, and you've seen what happens. The bidding is so high, it's really not worth it. You're bringing the cars in, you're losing up front, maybe you're making in the back. Those are very, very, very hard vehicles to sell and not necessarily the best vehicles to bring in. So what do? You have to go into private listings. Private listings are basically where people are actually sourcing inventory. It's not easy. I'm going to be very candid with you, because the dealers that I deal with, the auto groups and some of the single stores, the ones that are having success have really dug into the process, have put a process in place and made sure that that process is followed to the T. And in a sense, I'm going to tell you this. Majority of those dealers are relying on their managers to source cars from private listings. Because what we're learning as years go by is motivating salespeople is becoming harder and harder. And there's a shift out there, but whatever it is, if you are able to get your salespeople to practice in that process, to actually become good at it, good on you. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be very candid. Your manager should be the one basically reaching out to those clients and making those deals, because they're the ones negotiating. They're the ones calling the final numbers. Private listings are where you have to go. Unless otherwise, you're going to keep buying cars from the auction. You're going to keep overpaying for them because you're not going to be getting the trades like you used to because of shortage of new inventory. So I'll leave you with that for now. And then once you guys see some of the examples of those successful dealers, and then we can chime in a little bit more. Thank you.
Thanks, Madison.
Yeah, we have a bit on here about that change management and ensuring that the actual sales team is trained on how to purchase vehicles.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. The change management is a big part of what's required. And Mazen, he said it really clearly. It's not easy. This is a hard project to do. It's not something that is natural for us to do, is to, take our salespeople who have customers coming in through our marketing efforts and our selling cars and turn them into acquisition specialists. To Mazen's point, this should be manager driven. But at the same time, we want to think about the fact that this inventory supply shortage isn't going to end anytime in the short term, right? So we also want to try to think about how do we retain some of our good people. And this is a good opportunity to take some of those people with some of those great personal skills and to help train them on vehicle acquisition, to give them an opportunity to build a pay plan that potentially rewards them with a commission, very much in the same way that they would be rewarded for a sale. They should be rewarded for an acquisition, right? Both of those bring opportunity into the business for profit.
Yeah, I think that's the key, pay plan. There's no way. You got to introduce that pay plan to drive that desired behavior, because even when I was digital marketing manager, if I wanted them to do reviews online or social posts, it was money. Do a video, $10 a video, $15 a video, whatever it is. I'm sure that adjusting their pay plan will definitely drive that behavior. That's for sure.
And also setting them up for success. So it's like with talk tracks and how to handle objections and providing some of those insights to help with those conversations will also help them get the results and ultimately the buy-in into this new change.
100%. And if you just think ahead to when we do return to some form of normalcy in terms of supply, what kind of a team you're going to have, right? If you get really good at this right now, when things normalize, your team is just going to be deadly. You've got this brand new opportunity to source inventory. Once inventory is normalized, you should be able to source private inventory at a lower cost to market than you would in a wholesale environment, right? So this is going to make the businesses that engage in this, practice this, execute this, drive this, measure it, manage it. They are going to hit it out of the park when inventory levels start to come back. One of the other things that we've seen some of the dealers do, some of the groups do, is to build essentially a dedicated team of acquisition specialists, right? These are people that are going to be using everything from some of the tools that we've mentioned, setting up the notifications with the various marketplaces. They're going to be calling people out of all the different marketplaces. They're going to be working connections through their dealer network, through their wholesale network. They'll probably still be monitoring all the various different wholesale platforms, just looking for every single opportunity to acquire a piece of inventory, right? These are people that their job is to source inventory, and that's how they're going to get paid, as well as specifically off acquisition.
Yeah, key here as well is that efficient lead management, quick response times. At Ford, we had it under 15 minutes. Response time was standard. Todd, what are you thinking there for response times on a trade lead that comes in, let's say?
Oh, look, I mean, I was talking to a dealer last week, when I was asking him, what are you doing? Tell me what you're doing to try and source inventory in this environment. And he was doing, he was trying to source private content, and he was calling them, his call was he was calling them within 2 minutes of receiving that notification. And he said during his 5 or 10 minute discussion with that private seller, they would receive 3, 4, or more calls from other dealers who are also actively looking to acquire that inventory. So it's competitive. So response time is of the utmost importance.
Can I add something to that? Just
for sure.
When it comes to response time, so let me draw a picture, and I'm pretty sure this is basically everybody's averages out there. What we're noticing in the market, the lead counts are going up. Lead counts, the leads keep coming in, right? And when you look at your KPIs, you look at your metrics, you're always going to notice your lead count is high, your contacted customer is not very high. So you're getting the leads, but the customers that respond to your initial response is not very high, which is affecting your appointment ratio. And you can see in the bottom, whenever we get those appointments into the showroom, you guys are able to sell them. So what is the problem? The problem is actually stuck between the time you contact that lead and getting that customer to the front door. So let me ask you a question. We're all busy nowadays, all right? Any of you guys want to do a project, go to Home Depot, you're probably scratching your head. I don't even have time to do anything. When someone sends a lead to your dealership, the best time to respond is not 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm sorry. It's right now. Because that person is on his phone, is on his tablet, is on a PC. Answer when they're able to speak to you, because that's when they can talk. Because in 5, 10 minutes, they might not be able to talk to you. So response time is critical. Answer as quickly as possible. Let's get those customers hooked on. That way we can increase the contacted ratio and increase our appointment ratio.
Great comment there.
Good insight, Mazen.
So here, I just think there's an example that we wanted to highlight around who's winning and why are they winning.
Yeah, so this is just a little bit of a case study. This is a real world view of 2 different dealer groups. This is a couple of groups that we were looking at kind of as a team recently, and we'll call them Dealer Group A and Dealer Group B. These are 2 similar sized dealer groups, both operating in similar markets. Dealer Group A, when we look across the group, the average number of units per rooftop was 34. Dealer Group B, the average number of units per rooftop was 102. So when we look at this and we think about where we are from a seasonality perspective, and that we're just about to enter, our biggest, best selling season, which is the spring market, which one of these dealers is positioned for success? Well, it's obvious it's Dealer Group B. And what is the difference? Why is Dealer Group B able to build their inventory to come into a spring market with 102 units? Well, it's all of the different things that we just mentioned, right? It's that they've built process, they've effectively executed on that process, they've trained their salespeople, their managers are incentivized and understand that their primary job is to focus on driving acquisitions, both themselves and through their sales teams. They've built a component to their business, which is, basically a business development center for acquisition, with acquisition specialists who are just out there acting as hunters, and all of these different things. And to Mazen's most recent point, response times, right? So they've got the fast response times, they've got the acquisition specialists out there hunting, they've got the front end of their business pivoted, trained, they're measuring and they're managing how effective not just they're responding to leads, but how effective is each one of our salespeople that we've now allowed to interact with acquisition opportunities. How effective are they? Right? Are they all acquiring inventory at the same rate, or is there some that we need to work with more than others? And if so, what can we do to make improvements there? So that's really what that view looks like. And dealer group B, I mean, in this environment, this low market day supply, compressed environment, I mean, this dealer group is going to have to make some really big mistakes to not have success over the next 90 days with that type of inventory.
Mazen, do you have any similar stories with dealerships or dealer groups that you have worked with and managed to?
I'm going to share actually something about dealer group B. They're not even my clients, but I'm going to tell you guys something. Dealer group B actually took everything that you guys are talking about and actually went one step further. They actually have a person hired getting paid $16 an hour minimum wage. That's their sole responsibility is to call clients and bring them into the showroom so that the managers can close those private listings, and they pay that person $200 per car. That's what dealer group B is doing. And they're not even my clients, by the way, right? But I know that because I'm pretty close with that dealer group. So you have to start getting creative.
Tackling it from all angles, basically.
Yeah. Absolutely. You have to get creative. Look, this might not work for you. It might not. I'm being very candid. In your demographics, in your market, in your dealership, it might not work. What might work for you is actually compensating your salespeople, motivating them, giving them power. That might work for you. Or it might be basically the managers doing that part of the job. But at the end of the day, you cannot just sit still and wait and hope that, that little faucet is going to open up and all of a sudden we're going to have cars. Because let me give you some news. It's not happening. It's not. Because everything that we're seeing is leading us to believe that this is going to be the situation, the circumstance that we have for the next little while. So get creative. Listen to those. These are all great ideas, actually. Great ideas. Take what works for you, but make sure you do something. Make sure you do something.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mazen and Todd, for those insights. And hopefully our listeners are able to take some of this away and leverage your teams to support them through that process change, because we know it's never easy. Implementing a new process is not an overnight thing, and it does require some change and shift in the mindset, as well as getting the buy-in from the team. And once we start seeing those results, and I think that's where the true drive towards that success will come in. So thank you both for your input on that.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on and switching gears a little bit. So Ivan, I always enjoy and look forward to your latest insights, trends, and best practices when it comes to digital marketing efforts. What have you got for us today?
Well, thanks, Clarice. Yeah, absolutely. That's, training your sales staff, but I have a lot of marketers on the call. So we're going to go out and try and get customers as well. And one of the strategies we use is with the autotrader.ci, and we will have a Q&A with Alison Smerick very shortly. But just to set the stage about search, top 10 nameplates here. This is Google from February 2022. Look at the difference in search volume for the sedans, Civic, Corolla, Elantra, BMW 3 Series. They're the highest search increased increase that Google saw for vehicles. That includes pickup trucks and SUVs, by the way. So these would be some of these sedans that I'd be conquering. And another point as well is, hey, listen, even though inventory is down, search demand is not. So let's go after them. We'll go next slide and take a look at pickup trucks. You can see pickup trucks didn't go up as high as some of the others, but Tundra, it's way up there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of Tundra in stock. And F-150 is the first 24% share of search. So guess what? Ram 1500 Stellantis dealers, those with a lot of pickup trucks, I'd be conquesting those. So there's the opposite side of the wheel of that. And so when we talk about search, obviously you can do conquesting. You saw the nameplates are up, but acquisition keywords are important. And actually, this is a really good campaign that we started to run, is to focus on these: sell my car, how much is my car worth, value my car, what's my car worth. You can see the year-over-year change if we highlight in green on the second last column there, Clarice. You'll see the increase of keyword usage year over year, especially on Buy My Car, 124% increase. This is North American data, by the way, for our American dealers. Lots of searches on these vehicles. I'd stay away from Cash for Cars, $8.41 top of page bid, little expensive, and 18% reduction. But I would focus on the other keywords. Make sure you're optimizing your campaign so that you're not paying too much cost per click. Sell My Car, $6.13. The agencies can do better. Okay, you can really get that down to the $1.35, $50, $75 mark. And traffic itself, we had a cost per click on this campaign across all of our dealerships at $1.72, and that's where you want to be, in and around there. And we'll go next slide and see sort of how it looks. Here's a case study from a Stellantis dealer in February 2022. Of course, there is some ad copy. Make sure you have the USPs there, like "we need your car." Make sure you have your city in the title. Make sure you have your site links extensions so that people can get extra clicks, value your trade. Selling your car FAQ, that's a good one to have in terms of a link on your site. And then dealer reviews always makes everybody feel really good. $437 total spend with this dealer. Average cost per click for this one, $1.31, but 15 conversions. Okay, so I'm probably going to say, hey, listen, let's increase the budget on this because you're getting a $29.18 cost per conversion. By the way, these aren't phone calls. These are form leads and chats. So pretty good cost per conversion there. Search, definitely one. Another one is social. On social, you want to make sure that you get away from, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy ours kind of thing, because that's everywhere. And Claire's interesting story about that is when I did a campaign like that 8 years ago or 7 years ago, there's actually a dealership in Canada that trademarked that exact word. And I got a cease and desist. But due to inventory shortages, I think everybody's using it and they're not going after everybody anymore. So it's a good thing. You can see on the left-hand side, did you know with the inventory shortages going on that your trade-in values are at their highest? Your car is worth more than you think. Again, try and think outside the box and try and think about people's, their money and things like this. You see on the right-hand side too, Traffic Audi, cool dealership. Do branding, right? There's a lot of trade tools out there. Use that branding as well to attract traffic. And then the final one that I think for in terms of suggested acquisition would be video. So on the next slide, we'll look at YouTube for Action. Now, YouTube for Action is interesting. It's a new type of campaign on YouTube. Traffic offers it, and I'm sure if you have your providers, they pretty sure they'll offer it. But anyways, I know we do at Traffic. It's basically a video ad that actually has submission forms, kind of like a Facebook lead ad right on the platform. And you can also add site links extensions to the video ads as well. So that's
sorry, I have a quick question on that site link one. So with our integration, you're able to retarget and get customers right into kind of like the trade flow within the built digital retailing flow or shopping cart. Is that available through these new YouTube lead submission site links as well?
Right. You're talking about the Motoinsight remarketing integration with Traffic. Yeah. So I would say yes on a remarketing ad. So
Mhm.
at first, you're going to show them a regular ad, get them to your website, trade in, trade up. It's actually a pretty good tagline there. Make the user think that they're going to get a better car, which they might. But for the perspectives on a remarketing campaign, you want to send them further down the funnel. So absolutely, I would make a site links extension go to your digital retailing landing page so that they can go further down the funnel. We ran this campaign. We saw 40% higher conversions across the entire account, 20% higher clicks, and 30% lower cost per acquisitions on mobile. So really good campaign, YouTube for action. In sum, search acquisition, static campaign, keyword based. Ensure you have strong negatives because there's a lot of stuff that comes in that's not really relevant. So make sure to monitor that. If you do have inventory, I know Stellantis dealers do, conquest campaigns, take the search from some of the others that don't. That would be the strategy I would say there. Social, same thing, static. Use emoji colors to stand out, unique angle. Make sure you have a unique angle. And then, of course, video acquisition using YouTube for action. Make sure you track leads that go to the native platform. Moving over to website. Once they land on your website, you want to make sure that you have CTAs everywhere for people to see. So a floating widget you see on the left can help. And then also in the chat section, value my trade, buy my car, right in the chat section. I thought that was pretty cool. Instead of chatting, just go right to it. And I also saw video chat there, which was interesting of this chat provider. I didn't see that before, Claris, but I thought that was very cool. And on the following page, again, so we have on the landing page, you can use a trade-in appraisal sort of form. That's just basically a regular lead form, not really evaluating a tool. You're basically getting a lead. But the question really you have to ask yourself is, do you want more leads or do you want more quality?
Quality or quantity? It's always
exactly.
Question, right?
Yeah. If you want more leads, less mandatory fields. If you want more quality leads, put more mandatory fields. Phone number's the big one, really. If somebody puts a phone number, they're pretty serious. If not, they're not. I would recommend using these trade specific third-party tools because they are more intuitive, they're higher converting, they do actually provide a value as opposed to just a lead. The only downfall there, of course, is the potential for less tracking from digital campaigns because they tend to be third-party. And then also on that landing page, ensure some FAQs and steps like no purchase necessary, how does trade valuation work, etc. And then use the landing pages as an acquisition tool. I heard about a dealer going out to the supermarkets, giving away cards, telling them, hey, listen, get an instant trade value, use a QR code. And then, of course, that QR code brings you to the landing page that's on your website. I have the instant cash offer example with whom we're going to hear from Alison Smerick right now. It's a great sort of strategy to go out to people and get their trade values. So having said that, Claris.
Alison, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks for inviting us today.
Awesome. So Alison is a performance manager for the Instant Cash Offer program. So Alison, I think maybe just to set the stage for anyone who's on the call today and not familiar with what ICO or Instant Cash Offer is, just a quick overview. Why is it beneficial for dealerships? How does it help with the intuitive consumer journey?
Of course. I mean, I do see some of our existing partner dealers, so thanks for joining the call today. For anyone who's new to Instant Cash, though, or ICO for short, it's an online tool, as we've seen in some of the slides Ivan's shown us today. Really, what it provides your consumer is a convenient and transparent way for them to get an appraisal value and roll into either a trade-in or selling their vehicle. Once they enter in their information, they're going to get an offer of value for their vehicle they're going to take to the existing partner dealer. Really, from there, the dealer is going to validate that information, and it's a pretty seamless process there as far as trading in or selling that unit. We know that this is really addressing a consumer pain point as far as looking for transparent and quick, efficient tools for getting that trade appraisal, all the while as well giving partner dealers a competitive edge in the market right now to attract more buyers.
Alison, I talked about a bit, obviously I talked about marketing campaigns landing on the trade tools. I'm not afraid to ask, 'cause I think I know the answer, but tell me, there's been an increase in consumer interest, like using those online trade tools, like there's an increase in leads, right? Using these kind of tools.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, our research is showing year over year, we're seeing more consumers using tools like this as they are looking to move more of their car purchase to an online process. And even in addition to that, we're seeing more dealer partners joining us. as they're realizing this is meeting a need they know their consumers are having, and to remain competitive in a market that's tight for inventory.
And so they can leverage the tool, like I had mentioned there with the QR code. Are there any other ways that they can leverage the tool to acquire more private inventory?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for those who know, but the program has a couple of versions, one of which is a trade-in center. Those dealers, you're going to see badging on your VDPs on the trader website. Things like that floating button and those call to actions on websites are a really great way to bring attention. And it can be the simplest thing. You can put in your email signatures, put that call to action, everybody across the dealership. Get your accounting department to be promoting the product, get your parts department to be promoting the product. Make it known that you offer this product to your consumers, and get everyone else to help spread the word.
And like, let's say, and this happened a lot in previous, I don't know if it's anymore, but you're spit out of an evaluation, right? What happens if like the dealer doesn't like the evaluation, or I've seen that where dealers go, oh, it's too much, that tool, or whatever. Maybe the seller themselves doesn't like the evaluation. Like what happens in that scenario, or does it happen?
I mean, so the valuation is provincially based. So depending on the province the dealer is located in, it is specific to their area. They're always monitoring that algorithm to check for any regional variation that may be occurring within the number. But ultimately, if the dealer doesn't want the unit for any reason, it just doesn't fit in their inventory, they can sell it back to AccuTrade. So really, there's essentially no risk to using that instant cash. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still the opportunity, even if they don't want that vehicle, to upsell the consumer, trade off to a new vehicle, right, to make some money on the front and back end there. Yeah.
They have a happy customer with minimized risk as far as keeping the unit.
Yeah, and we've been talking about process change throughout the session today. So with dealers who are succeeding with this, like what is it that they do? Like, how are they getting more cars and more trades through the tool? What is their approach?
I know we're going to say the same thing we've already heard from Todd and Mazin. It's really about changing mindset, right? And looking at this as a way to acquire inventory. This is an acquisition tool, and positioning your staff, whether it is a dedicated team in a BDC, dedicated staff, or financially incentivizing sales staff for using the tool as an acquisition.
Exactly.
And money talks, right? We know that for sure.
Money talks. Yeah.
But having consistent process, always following that process. Even so much as following up on expired leads, right? No lead is left to go to waste, and just checking in later in the process. Consumers may have a change as far as their position, what they're looking to do at that time, and they may be ready to sell maybe 30 days later, 60 days later, whatever it may be. But stay in contact and just keep working that lead.
Thank you very much, Alison. And again, I presume your team is always there to help.
Always, yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, quick time check here. I know we're coming to the end of the hour, so we're going to wrap up soon. A couple of things I wanted to highlight here. So actually looking at the challenges that are going out there, we're doing the same, trying to support our dealer partners with integrations to help with those workflows. So if you are an instant cash offer customer, we're actually able to offer the integration. Why that's cool, as mentioned, we have the website widget with consumer facing instant trade values. We actually have the ability to directly integrate through those Google retargeting ad campaigns for our partners at Traffic. And then also the beauty of that is that it's actually stacked into the selling flow. So you can seamlessly transition the consumer from the trade into the online sales flow. So getting those additional steps completed before you interact with the customer. Again, bringing in that efficiency and that seamless process from both from a dealership and a consumer end. And then also, I know that we mentioned it back in December, new features, allowing our dealers, we know that your needs are different. We're allowing you some customization when it comes to the widgets that can enable you as a trade first widget for your homepage on your website or SRP as well. Again, that plugs into the shopping cart flow. Again, seamless transition. We made a couple of changes to ensure that we bring you the volume as well as maintain the quality of those opportunities. So additional questions that you can guide the customers to, VIN photo upload, vehicle photo uploads as well. So you can facilitate that remote trade appraisal or get more of the information up front to decide how much you can offer for that car is something that of interest to you. So I know there was a lot to cover here, Ivan, but there's a couple of key takeaways I think that we want to make sure that we all take away from today's conversation.
Yeah, so the key takeaways, ensure sufficient marketing investment for trading campaigns across multiple channels. That's like a standard right now. You have to have that. And again, different eyeballs on different channels, they do work. So make sure you have that going for sure. I saw a dealer didn't have it a couple last week that I did a review with. I'm like, wow, well, we got to make that happen. And he absolutely agreed. Embrace change and ensure execution in the dealership level. It's always hard, but of course, money talks. Anytime I wanted to ensure execution, you put a dollar sign beside it and it'll get executed. But whatever it is you do, make sure that gets executed. And then think outside the box, right? These tools are not just website tools. Be proactive with the tools. Take them to people. Use them as QR codes. Download the apps that are available with them and actually use them outside of the scope of the website.
Exactly. The tools work when you work the tool, basically, right? As we come into wrap up, if you do have any questions, you can submit them in the Q&A or chat segment, or you can reach out to us. Happy to loop back with any information. Also, we'll be sharing the recording in depth as well if you want the rest of your team to review it. And we have a upcoming session, Ivan.
Yes, May the 4th of a great performance review be with you. This is going to be a really cool one. It is on May the 4th, Wednesday, May the 4th at noon. Clarice and I will be on it with some members from Traffic and Motoinsight, talking about how to the items that you should look for in a good performance review. We actually have a really cool performance review being released in April at the Traffic side, which is what generated this. It's 59 pages long, lots of info. Of course, there's an executive overview, but that's exactly what we want to go over, the analytics that you want to look for in the digital retailing for Traffic. And we'll also see if we can invite Activics as well. We'll see. And for more tips, best practices, and insights, please do follow us. We do post a lot of these videos and other items that sort of Clarice and I talk about on LinkedIn, Motoinsight and Traffic, on Motoinsight's YouTube channel, and on TikTok. We are on TikTok. Make sure to follow us there as well.
Thank you, Ivan. I don't know, Todd, Alison, any final thoughts that you wanted to share before we wrap up here today at all?
I think Ivan did a nice job just kind of putting a bow on it there. I mean, I think Ivan used the word, get outside of the box. Mazen used the term get creative. I think any of those terms or terminologies apply. That's really what it's going to take to win for the foreseeable future until we get some normalization back in our inventory supply.
Exactly.
Okay, I think we're all aligned. So awesome. Thank you, our panelists, for joining us today. We'll have you back later on in the year for sure. Our contact information is on the screen. If you do have any specific topics that you would like us to cover, feel free to reach out, or questions around the content or any of our guests as well. You can see our email address on there. Feel free to reach out. And as mentioned, we'll be sharing the deck and the recording for you to review as well. I know, Ivan, you had any final?
No, we're going to play some music. We're going to play some music to wrap it up. So if you want to stick around for a couple of minutes for the music. Otherwise, thank you for attending, and we'll see you at the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.